What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Blizzard just came out with competitive play mode for Overwatch, so I'd like to give a brief little overview of what it is for those who were unfamiliar. So competitive play mode is Blizzard's way of making sure that people of similar skill levels are able to find games and play with one another. Once you reach level 25, you can then click this button in the center of the play mode. It says competitive play at the bottom, and it's got your skill rating right there in the center that disappears when you mouse over it for some reason. Not a big fan of how it does that. So the skill rating basically works like a dumbed down version of MMR, mixed matchmaking rating, if you know what that is. In short, as you win games, your skill goes up, and as you lose games, your skill goes down. You are balanced and compared against other players of similar skill, and it doesn't necessarily go off wins and losses, but for the most part, it goes off of wins and losses. If you win a game, you're going to go up. If you lose a game, you're going to go down, but how much you go up and down is apparently dependent on your individual performance in the gaming, as well as the performance of the teammates. And of course, their skill rating is also taken into account. I'm sure there's some secret formula behind the scenes that they're not telling everyone, but the short version is, the better you are, the higher your skill rating goes. So they're going to have seasons. There's going to be 4 seasons in each year. Obviously, each one's going to last 2.5 months. And in that time, you raise your skill rating as much as you can go, and then all the stats are reset at the end. You got 2 weeks off, and then a new season starts. And if you were curious, these seasons are named after the Northern Hemisphere. That's because we're all in the Northern Hemisphere. Like, seriously, if I look at my analytics, I'm sure, like, maybe 4% of my audience in the video game playing world is in the Southern Hemisphere. Anyway, so that's how that works. They are also making some small changes to how matches will be played for competitive play, and it changes based on what the game mode is. They are now implementing points rather than just winning and losing games. So first, let's talk about control maps. These are ones like Ilias, she says at the beginning of every single game, and I still don't know how to pronounce it, Lijiang Tower, and Nepal. So control maps are going to be now in a best of 5 format instead of a best of 3 format. I think that's probably the quickest to mention change that they did. So whereas before, if you lost a game and then lost the next game, that's it. And this one you can lose 2 in a row as long as you win the next 3, which I think is going to be pretty rare, actually. You'd hope that at some point, especially if players of similar skill levels, you're not just going to lose all 3 in a row, but who knows, it could happen. Next up, this is where it starts getting a little bit more complicated, but once you play it, you'll understand it. These are escort and hybrid maps, so we're talking about Dorado, Route 66, Watchpoint Gibraltar, the hybrid maps Hollywood, Kings Row, and Numbani. On these ones, there's now a point system, and you get a point whenever the capture point is taken or a payload manages to get to a checkpoint. Both teams play around on offense and defense. Once those have been done, then the team with the most points wins. That's fairly straightforward. However, tying is fairly likely in a game where there's only 3 to 4 points per each level. So if the game does end in a tie and neither team actually succeeded in getting it to the final destination, then the team that manages to get it further is the team that will win. And you'll notice at the top of the screen there is a little bit of a distance counter that's keeping track of who pushed the cart how far. On Kings Row, Numbani, and Hollywood, however, if it's a complete shutout, no one takes their first point, or if the final score is tied, then the game goes into sudden death, but we'll come back to that. Assault matches. These ones are kind of the same as the last, but kind of different. They still use the point system. Each team plays 1 time on offense, and then at the end of the game, the team that has the most points wins. But if the first team to play doesn't capture a point, then the match is going to end as soon as the second team captures a point, because there's no way to even the score after that. So it'll be kind of jarring and weird as someone who's been playing for a few months to see the game just suddenly end as soon as the first checkpoint has been taken, but something we're going to have to start getting used to, I guess. But of course, if the score is tied, then this will probably usually happen if each team makes it. I think that's where we'll see the majority of these. If is if each team wins, then you play a second round on offense each. Now, in these rounds, you don't have the normal 5-minute clock on top of the screen. You've only got whatever time is remaining at the end of your previous game. If you don't have any team time remaining at all, then you just don't play another round. But if either team had fewer than 2 minutes left on the clock during the previous round, then they get at least 2 minutes. That's all you get. You basically have to push through the entire level on 2 minutes. And of course, when either team runs out of time, the team with the higher score wins the match. And if both teams are tied, then the match enters sudden death. Now, sudden death is kind of lame, to be perfectly honest with you. Basically, one team is randomly put on offense, the other one is randomly put on defense, and then you have to push the first point. If you successfully push, you win. If you successfully defend, you win. That's how sudden death works right now. If you go to their website, on their blog, it says that this mechanic is only going to be in place for this season. I have the feeling it's a bit of a placeholder because it's kind of unfair. I don't know exactly what the stats are on attacking and defending and chances of winning are, but I feel like it's probably not exactly 50-50. Defense might have a small advantage. Or actually, maybe even offense does because their spawn point's way closer. I don't know. So that's weird, and that should hopefully be addressed at some point in the future. Let's talk about what you will get out of competitive play. They do have sort of a basic consolation prize. Once you've completed your 10 placement matches, and the season ends, in this case, it's probably going to end about 2.5 months from now, then we will get the very first consolation prize style rewards, which is basically a player icon and a spray that are going to be given to just about everyone. So, not exactly exclusive, but it's sort of like a card back in Hearthstone. It's just sort of your way of saying, like, I was there. In addition to that, we'll start getting competitive points. Now, competitive points are basically, I don't know, currency you get for playing competitive play at the end of a season, and then you can cash those in to get cosmetic things. Right now, the only cosmetic thing that I know that they have planned is golden skins for your weapon. So that is your reward for doing well. I'm sure they're probably designing it on purpose to be the way Blizzard balances things. Probably at the end of this season, most people will have enough competitive points to get like 1 gold gun, maybe 2 gold guns. So that is sort of a guess on my part. They also said that at some point in each season, they will also be activating leaderboards that will hopefully start showing off some of the best players in the season. So they're saying if you manage to like get to the top 500 on your system, so like PC or Xbox or whatever, then you get a little in-game thing saying like, hey, you're better than everyone else. And then finally, they're making some changes to player conduct, which I'm really pretty happy about that. And you know what, as far as like trolls go, I don't really care, but there is actually going to start being some penalties for leaving, and it starts out pretty minor. I mean, I guess it goes in the progression as you would guess. So if you leave a game, you get the option to rejoin, but if you don't rejoin, you will get a penalty. So if you continue to leave games and leave your teammates screwed, then you will be locked out of competitive play for longer and longer periods of time. If you actually go through games and then don't leave, you sort of return your account to good standing and you do not have to worry about that. But if you keep screwing up again and again and again, then you can just get banned in competitive play for an entire season. So that'll be great. We can finally just, you know, kick the side of the curb to people who just rage quit in the middle of a game all the time. Basically, if you leave a match within the first 2 minutes, the entire game gets scrapped. If you leave a match after 2 minutes, you are given 1 minute to reconnect. If you come back, you just go on with the game. If you don't, then everyone else will get the option to leave without receiving a penalty, but they will get a loss. So what's rough about Overwatch is that they have a really aggressive AFK timer, so you really want to make sure you're there when you're doing this. So if you don't touch the mouse or keyboard for 30 seconds, then it's going to kick you out. If the game doesn't get any input recorded from the computer for 15 seconds, you get kicked out. Also, if you avoid any combat at all for 3 minutes, then you get kicked out. So that about covers the basics of Overwatch competitive play. So if you're not subscribed to me already, I suggest doing that so that you can watch all these sweet Overwatch videos that I do. I'm also on Twitter if you want to check me out there and talk to me. And with that being said, I will catch you guys next time.